Mhm.
Start us off, Carter.
Excuse me. I can't believe this has happened. I can't. And I just want to say thanks to Mahomes for fighting me. Mahomes, I want to thank Big Dom for having my back. We love you, Hurts. I love you. I love you too. Uh, I just want to thank God, except for my kid being born. This is the greatest night of my life. I just want to say one thing to my fans who are at home. Yo, Philly! I did it! Anyway, welcome to Carter and Kevin Explain Football. Carter here.
And it's me, Adrian.
Big Dom. Did you see, like, right when the game was over, they're doing the thing where they're, like, the camera, they have, like, 3 or 4 cameras that are set to be, like, mobile, and they're, like, gotta go find the quarterbacks, gotta go find, like, any interesting little tidbits you can get, gotta find the coach. And Big Dom is just escorting Sirianni out, and he keeps being like, gotta move, camera. And you can clearly see the cameraman is toppling over, and they hard cut away, so they don't have to show Big Dom, like, getting in trouble again.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. He's one of those people who's just somehow now a Philly icon, but and like his actual position on the team, he's the only one that does it like that. Like,
Right.
he's legitimately the one that's like, I'm pretty sure every single head coach and then some has like a pretty roughly a personal security guard and style thing, but no one
Right.
gets up like none
Big
of them take
fucking Dom.
none of them take less shit than Big Dom. Who
Right? They literally
with the game against the 49ers, he got asked to leave the sidelines.
Well, they changed his role so they couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah,
it's just so funny.
But he got asked to leave the sidelines because who was it? Was it Greenlaw or someone picking a fight with him? Or Ward? No,
literally, Big Dom got suspended last year, and the team caved in on itself like a dying star. It's the most Philly thing. It really is one of the most Philly things you could possibly imagine of, like, this team of Adonises, this team of Apollos, like these superhumans. It's all stitched together by this sort of slightly rotund, very Italian man who's not above roughing him up a little bit.
No, he's not. It's one of those things that it's so Philly it works. Like,
and you're also like, what is your job? Who are you? Where did you come from? Did you just appear from a hole in the ground?
Yeah.
Did, like, someone knock over a trash can and you just rolled out and then you're, like, there, like some kind of odd Philly-centric cryptid? Like, who are you?
He might as well be.
Right? I'm like, I didn't know who you were literally less than 365 days ago, but now you are an important part of my sports-watching life.
Yeah,
Was he always here?
He's been with the organization for years, but it's just like one day, like 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, I don't know. He just kind of he kind of just made his presence known.
Sirianni's like, you're my guy. You're my guy who keeps me level-headed. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever watched We Bare Bears, but there's an episode where, like, sort of their main antagonist is, like, a koala bear who's, like, an internet celebrity, voiced by Patton Oswalt, naturally. And there's an episode... Yeah. There's an incident where he has to, like, go to anger management because he, like, flipped out on the set of, like, a Wiggles-esque show. And the solution to his anger management is to just hug Grizz, because the idea is Grizz is large and incredibly soft, so it's like hugging a pillow. And that's kind of how I imagine Nick Sirianni and like Big Dom's relationship. Just anytime Sirianni's kind of losing his shirt a little bit, just freaking out a little bit, he just squeezes Big Dom and just goes like, and that team just won the fucking Super Bowl, baby. Let's go.
Let's fucking go. Go Birds.
Yes, go Birds. Yes, so we are 2 weeks. We're effectively 2 weeks from Super Bowl Sunday. I don't know about you, but I feel like I usually round up the troops when it's time to record, and I was kind of like, you know what? I'm going to give us a couple extra days. Yeah. The Super Bowl, like, the nature of the events aren't going anywhere. I figured Kevin needed a little time to, dry out a little bit.
I needed the week to gain my bearings. We'll say that.
Yes.
I was
Uh,
able to put the parade on and everything, but
yes.
I needed a little bit.
What was my expression? You didn't need a sauna. You needed one of them tubes they put the bionicles in.
Yes, you did say that. No,
I don't know what they. I don't remember what they do, but they're important, and you got to be in one. Um,
yeah,
but
I was in
yes,
my Darth Vader egg, being
just healing.
healing. Yeah.
Like I finally show up, and I'm like, Lord Kevin, and I just see them like putting on your beard and like long hair again, and you're just like, oh, what is up with that guy's face?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're here to do like a pretty light, breezy recap. Maybe talk about our enjoyment of the festivities, and sort of just get ready to wrap up the season before we take a brief break until free agency and the draft start up.
Yeah. Was that end of April? NFL draft?
Yeah, around there.
Yeah.
Draft's around April. We probably do an episode before the actual draft happens, so we got a little bit of time. So let's breeze through that. Here's where we'll start. Let's just start with like the broad picture before we get into the highlights and lowlights. Like, tell me your emotions going in. Like, were you antsy going into the Super Bowl?
antsy.
How are you feeling going into the Super Bowl? You were on Team Antsy.
I'm on Team Ant. I feel like any respectable Eagles fan, no matter like where they are, was antsy leading up to the game because
It's so funny.
it's Mahomes. It's Mahomes and the Chiefs, kind of like how it was Tom Brady and the Patriots, where you've seen them make wild comebacks before. You've seen them, like, you've seen things happen to go in their favor. I'll describe it as that. Where things might seem possibly rigged, or if not rigged, they are being paid special attention to.
Well, I will say on that front, my brief thoughts about that are one, like, no one's saying the league is literally rigging it for the Chiefs. We are just saying that they do get the benefit of the doubt sometimes because they're like, and again, the Patriots got the benefit of the doubt sometimes too. When you're like the golden child with momentum.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, see, they were outright cheating.
Yeah.
Like, the only conspiracy I'll hear about the league actively rigging it for the Chiefs is because Roger Goodell fucking hates Tom Brady. Because, like, again, when it came to Spygate, they used kid gloves for the Patriots. A draft pick, a couple, like, slaps on the wrist, and then they let them destroy all of the evidence that could have suggested it was worse than it was. So then when the Deflategate thing comes around, all the owners are like, are you fucking... Like, we all bit our tongues the first time around. You're really going to let him do this again? So they suspend Tommy Boy, and that year he won the Super Bowl right after getting suspended. He pointedly did not make eye contact with Goodell at all. Like, he literally just ripped the trophy out of his hand and started waving it around. Mm-hmm. So I think, I would love to believe the conspiracy theory that Goodell's just like, fuck this guy, I don't care how I have to do it, Patty's getting 7 Super Bowls. But clearly that wasn't the case this time around. But anyway, as you were saying.
Yeah, I'm against the concept of things are scripted. The whole color theory. The color theory should have been thrown out 2 years ago or last year. I don't know. When it was the colors were like red and purple, and it was the 49ers versus the Chiefs, and the justification was like, well, Taylor has an album where she's wearing a purple dress on it, and it's like, all right, like you're stretching it a little bit here.
Right,
but
you had to predict
like
they would start dating like mid-season. Yeah.
So, and like they have logos planned out way like they released next year's logo for Super Bowl
like now
60, yeah. And I can tell you for a fact from just having graphic design experience and stuff, if they don't have a finalized design for 61 yet, they're working on it.
Right. Like, yeah. For this logic to be clear, you would have to think that Goodell and the front office of the NFL are literally like the Bene Gesserit in Dune, where they can see centuries into the future and are meticulously moving the parts to make sure their vision comes to pass.
Yeah, and like they have to plan out and make all the stuff for it. And unlike like the shirts they give to the players and stuff, or more impoverished countries, where it's like, all right, we'll just make it for both sides. It's like, no, you're making it for this game specifically and this concept specifically. So you were going to be hard, like, and it's not just shirts. You're making banners,
Hats,
ads,
yeah,
everything.
posters.
So it's
It
like
is very funny. Well, see,
it
that's
takes a lot
the
of
funny
time.
part of a lot, right? It's so funny that that becomes bulletin board material. Like someone talked about how like the Chiefs were figuring out how to get the licensing rights to three-peat from Pat Riley. No, God knows why he has like the exclusive rights to that phrase. But then again, someone was allowed to copyright the phrase "Let's get ready to rumble." So I guess it's just whatever rules we want. But like, and the Eagles players were like, "Nah, we got to stop this." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you like planned those things in advance." Or like the year the DeMar Hamlin thing happened, they started selling tickets to a theoretical Chiefs-Bills matchup because it had to be at a neutral site. And it's like, well, yeah, you have to plan these things in advance, guys. I don't know what to tell you. But anyway,
Yeah. So
yeah,
like,
it's so funny because you guys were antsy.
I no. Our friend Kieran's eaten the entire state's worth of Florida's worth of oranges like a psychopath, which
Yeah.
cannot be healthy. Like,
I do think at some point, and it's why I've been trying to cut down on the lemon juice. I do think at some point shoots the moon, and like you're probably doing more damage to your immune system because it's like if you stop doing this for 1 second, it's like the unlimited pill where it's like if you stop taking it without a clear plan forward, your whole body's gonna go haywire. At least that's healthy. Well, also I need to stop the lemon juice because I have no enamel left. But yeah, it's so funny because you guys, like, especially the day before, I remember being very, like, I don't know, guys, I don't know. And a part of it's, like, you know, general emotional exhaust from my team and, like, exhaust from, like, my daily schedule. But I was just kind of like, I don't know, I think it'll be fine. The only situation where I was nervous is, like, if it comes down to a single score game. But then I just kept thinking about, and I talked about it before the Super Bowl. Someone just discussed, like, hey, you know, the Bills' interior defensive line kind of stinks, and they were able to get to the Chiefs.
oh yeah,
Like, Jalen Carter and I always forget his Jordan Davis, are much better than Ed Oliver and Roquan Smith. And for some reason, I'm like, it'll be fine. They'll win by like 10 points. It'll be like one of those Super Bowls where it's kind of close, but like one team has control.
yeah. It was, yeah. No, the nerves were there, like regardless of all that knowledge, just because of like I said, like things have been have clearly skewed to the Chiefs' favor over the last couple seasons, and then there's the inverse of it's still the Philadelphia Eagles. Like,
Right.
if
It's a cursed franchise versus like a franchise that has a horseshoe up its butt.
yeah, it's I was gonna go for like the Cowboys are considered America's team, and their biggest rivals are the Eagles. So that makes the Eagles the NFL's villain, in my opinion.
Right.
We're the scumbags. We get fighty. Jalen Carter pokes people in the eye. Like the Chiefs were definitely villains coming into the game, especially with how they won against the Texans and Bills. Like people did not want to see them three-peat, and I especially don't blame them with this season that they've had, where they didn't score more than 30 points, except for I think 2 times. And that's over the course of 20 games, 22 games, I think. But there's just this they were the villains going into the fight. They were like Green Goblin or Doctor Doom or whatever. And then the Eagles is like kind of like I'm trying to think of the best one to describe it. I would say kind of like, I don't know. How are we scumbags? Who's the best hero to describe? Like I don't want to be like Deadpool to sound like that guy, but like kind of like that anti-hero of like, if you like them if you're a fan of them, but if you like look at their actions, they're scumbags.
Right. Yeah, God, the over Deadpoolification of things really does make that Like, who's like the cool? There's no cool. That's the problem. There's no cool anti-hero now. I guess like Loki, but he's kind of more. I don't consider him an anti-hero.
I
At this point,
consider
he's
him
just a
like
hero.
I was gonna say he's just a likable villain, but
Yeah,
there's
I don't know. Something to ruminate on.
yeah.
But anyway, how crazy was your set? Like, how crazy did you go with the setup? Because like, I literally just like had it because I finally put Hulu on my nice TV so I could watch it from like, you know.
Yeah, I did.
You want to laugh?
Yeah, hit me. I would like a laugh.
I literally did not drink a single beer during the game. I was so busy like running around doing like sort of like getting things set up that like and like making dinner for people, eating dinner, like hanging out. Like by the time like the final thing, like the final confetti hit, I was just like, oh shit, I didn't have a single beer.
Yep.
So then I effectively pre-gamed my shower.
Nice. Yeah, I had some beers. No, I packed a cooler for the Royal Rumble. I didn't pack a cooler for the game because the Royal Rumble was gonna have less ads. But no, I just put it on my big TV. Um, Nothing crazy. I stopped Molly from playing Monster Hunter a little bit early so I can get everything set up, watch the pre-shows and stuff. And yeah, no, I just had some bevs, did the whole Jersey ritual with my dog as we always do. And
Yes.
yeah, no, and then one waited till like the after the trophy to do the victory lap, and then just hung out. Had a great time. Yeah,
How tempted were you to go to the parade?
very. I was incredibly tempted, but it was just like one of those things of because I'm like 5, 6 hours away now. I'd have to
Yeah.
go down the night before, and Molly had work, which isn't a problem, but it's like, but then there's the dog, and then like a lot of factors to do it on such a whim without like thinking about it.
Without having a battle map ready.
Yeah. And it's like I figured people were going down to the parade, but no one was like expressly like, "Hey, we're doing the parade at this time." So it's just like it's like, do I want to do this? And then like, do I spend the day in Philly? Do I come back in that afternoon? And it kind of just
Right.
it wound down to like why I like watching big events at home on TV because I can have my own drinks and stuff, which are going to be cheaper than whatever I buy there. And I don't have to worry about the view. I don't have to worry about hearing things right. Like I literally
I've never been a The View fan.
nah. But like I put on I think Fox had like an uncensored yeah, Fox had like just a raw unedited cam. So they just showed everyone. Everybody swore and it picked it up. Shout out to Landon Dickerson. And I got to hang out and like do it at my own pace where it's just also the perks of everything being on streaming is like I paused it, went to the bathroom, went grocery shopping, hit play again. Perfectly fine.
Right. Yeah, it was like I don't know. It was pretty funny in terms of like I got a lot of my parade experience through Sydney, and honestly, a lot of my like experience like of the Super Bowl was through Sydney because she was texting me as like what was coming was becoming more and more apparent. And it did dawn on me. I'm like, God, that's a long day out in the cold, man.
Nah, that's not a problem for me though.
It was for Sydney. I'll leave it at that. But
Coward.
yeah, no, it was. I don't know. It was wild processing, especially like following people's feeds because like all of our friends were in Philly at the time, and much like 2017, decided to charge Broad Street.
Yeah.
The funniest of the go ahead.
Me a picture day of the parade, and it's just like a little bit after everyone's done presenting and stuff and speeches, and she's just taking pictures with Big Dom and Howie Roseman.
That's
like,
insane.
And I'm just like, all right, if I knew about that, I would have gone out of my way.
Right.
If you were just like, hey, stick with me and that'll happen, it's like, yeah, no, I'm gonna make I'm gonna go down there, do the jersey over the sweatshirt vibe, and my cargo shorts and flip flops because I'm still a lunatic.
Yeah, your fashion sense is not built for a city, frankly.
My fashion sense
Your
is built
specific
for like a
sense of
Kevin Smith film.
yeah, well, yes, but that means you hang out in a mall or like a convenience store or some third option because I'm inexplicably blanking on his films right now. There was the one with the walrus.
You could easily make a J reference.
Oh shit, you're right. Yeah, you're on a plane going to go beat up people who cyberbullied you. Like that's the kind of outfit you can wear.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Jesus Christ. But yeah, shall we dive into the highlights? I'm very bewildered by this first one.
Oh, how are you bewildered by this? The
Your
biggest.
team won the fucking Super Bowl, and this is what you're leading with?
Yeah, because it started before the Super Bowl. It was the entire week. Jameis Winston was just out on the ground, like putting feet to pavement in New Orleans, and it was a fucking riot. Have you watched any of those
Oh,
videos?
okay. We did talk about this a little bit, and I did watch it. And I will. Here's what I'll say, because I've said some not so nice things about Jameis Winston in the past, particularly about his behavior during college. But at the same time, you see him out there, and you see him like glad handing and being a little weirdo, and you kind of do get how like the NFL has warmed itself to him.
Yeah.
Like you get it. You understand like how this guy has kept a moderately high approval rating throughout his career because like he is a cartoon character.
Yes. He's going around to the interviews asking people, "Hey, I'm unemployed now. My contract ran off. Who should I who should I go for? Like, what team should I go for? Where should I go?" And Saquon's like, "I heard the Giants are looking for a quarterback." He's like, "Where should I apply?" He's throwing cookies to like Travis Kelsey and AJ Wooden, going, "Hey, can you catch this W?" Asking people their favorite color, and then he's just set loose on New Orleans. Uh, and he's like having beignets. He's leading bands. He's just living his weirdest life. It was entertaining. Um, and then he watched the entire game with Bert Kreischer, the comedian.
Jeez.
And it's like, wow, what a combination of two individuals. Where it's just like, that must be just the most insane talking back and forth.
Right. It's God. That's so weird to think. It is for some reason this Super Bowl, and maybe it's because I was watching more carefully than I have the last couple. Like I said, like even as I'm like running around, I'm still glued to the screen. Like I'm eating, like I get like one of the best cheesesteaks I've ever had. But then I'm like, well, I should have a salad too. But instead of making a salad, like a fucking lunatic, I'm like, or like a single parent, I'm like eating individual spinach out of the bag, and then individual carrots out of the bag, and then individual broccoli out of the bag, and then drinking olive oil as like salad dressing. Um, yeah, but like I'm still glued, and the politics of like who's sitting with who is very very interesting to me. Like who gets like special billing at the Super Bowl? Who's like worth noting that they've gone to the big game? And also, while you're talking about the beignets, I do think we should shout out New Orleans for having a particularly difficult stretch where they have to host the Sugar Bowl, the National Championship, and the Super Bowl. And one other event I think I'm just forgetting, on top of like all the tragedy that happened in the city,
Yeah.
on top of just general like sort of wintry Mardi Gras adjacent tourism, like Mardi Gras is up next. The city's like getting put through the ringer and still showing up and putting on a hell of a show.
No, it's insane, and they did a great job. I heard a lot of like only compliments about the city itself, because everything's like apparently walking distance. So that was all nice. Everyone loved that, from what I heard. The like one like negative I heard was like just the New Orleans airport isn't built for that kind of shit.
It is actually, I've heard that before, and it's kind of crazy considering the sheer overwhelming amount of traffic the city gets.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, you want to laugh? Despite Princess and the Frog loudly being me and Sydney's favorite Disney movie, I've never had a beignet before.
Um,
Have you?
I feel like I think I've had some in college.
Right.
I
That's
think
because you have a more broad culinary palate than me. I feel like it would be really unlikely for you not to have had one.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but like I don't know. This year the media row stuff was interesting. Like sometimes, like I don't know. There's always discourse about the media row stuff, but I found it interesting. One, because it was a lot of great players there. Like hearing Miles Garrett talk about his desire to be traded. Puka Nakua was very much on the scene. I really liked hearing him talk. You really appreciate like how much of a scholar of the game he is, and like how interesting a conversationalist. Like, I just feel like we got a lot of great players on the scene this year as opposed to the usual, like, shenanigans.
I
Like, do you remember that one time a lady came in a bride's gown and asked Tom Brady to marry her?
Yeah, that was a little weird. I think I like that. I like sending the like some of these big name players to do these interviews and stuff as opposed I think it's a little bit more fun than having like fans because they're getting like other teams are getting repped cuz and that just helps get people but it's like they're not going to just be fangirling the entire time. They're going to be out there having fun. Um, like they're enjoying themselves, but there's like they can still ask silly questions, and no one's like, "Oh no, James Winston asked." I think like Devonte Smith, for example, what his favorite colors are. It's just like what a waste of a thing. People are like James Winston, that's funny.
Right,
But it's not like he's not like oh my gosh I love you like begging them to like marry him and stuff. He's out
right,
there making memes and having fun.
right. If there's one silver lining to sort of pivoting the Pro Bowl to be before the Super Bowl and in the same city, is it does open up the opportunity to just have, like, to make Super Bowl week more of, like, about the entire NFL and not just the two teams who are playing. Which I do think helps because,
I
like, the pregame discourse about the game was very basic. Of
yeah
like, well, the Eagles are obviously the better team, but man, those Chiefs, they just have tricks up their sleeve.
yeah. I think a good plan is like you show up there on like the NFL shows up there on like say a Saturday, and then Sunday like that following Sunday through Wednesday is all the Pro Bowl stuff.
Mm,
Like Sunday have the game or the big game, and then have all the silly competitions the next few days, kind of Olympic style.
mm,
And then Thursday through the following, I guess Monday technically, is all Super Bowl. Like,
mm.
because I liked, I like having them all, like all the teams, the Super Bowl teams down early. I think I feel I don't know, it might be just because of how much I've watched like people like Jalen Hurts and stuff through the interviews, but I feel like having them go through so many interviews, so many days, just annoys them more when they just want to lock in. Do like an away team media day the first one day, like Thursday, a home team media day Friday, and then Saturday, no no media whatsoever for the teams,
Mm.
and then Sunday is obviously the game because that just seems more fair and reasonable to them.
Yeah,
Because you had people that were having like a lot of the Eagles defense was getting sick and stuff beforehand, so they weren't feeling good. And people like they're not showing up to media. They're out like they're are they out of the game? Are they gonna get fined? And it's like that's kind of just annoying more than anything else. Uh,
right. I will say that's the only time I was nervous when people were getting the flu, and I'm like, God damn it!
it
Is this going to be how this game is decided? Who has the more flu? And incidentally, that would probably like motivate people to wear masks because like a lot of degenerate gamblers would lose money because of a goddamn cold. But I digress.
I think it's one of those things where it's like if it wasn't about to be a bunch of months off for all these guys,
Mhm.
it would it would be a bigger problem than it was. like for example, Cam Jurgens, Eagle center, has already gotten like a back surgery because he was having back problems going into it, and it's like, all right, he's gonna be taking some time off, obviously, but he should be good to go in July. So it's like, all right, he's got 5 months to heal up.
Mhm.
Brandon Graham, who possibly played his last game, um, had fucked up his arm and played in a brace. And he was out for the season week 11 or something like that. And it's like he's technically cleared, and it's like, what's he gonna do? Ruin his arm more, where he's gonna have a longer healing time in his retirement? Like, oh no, they don't have to. He's good to just do a normal time frame, and his arm will be fine by September, for example, as opposed to needing to be fine by August.
Mhm.
But he didn't really get as a crazy amount of reps in, and didn't really need to.
Right. Um, in terms of the actual game, I love that, like, in terms of our notes, you just put in all caps, the Eagles played their backups. I
I
mean,
was so pissed, but so ecstatic about that. Do you know how embarrassing it has to be for you to be playing against your starters are playing against backups in the Super Bowl? Because
I
it was like,
genuinely tried to think of the last time this happened.
yeah, especially, and it wasn't like it was like okay, last play, let everyone get a rep in. It was a couple of drives. Um,
Yes. Like, I mean, Jesus Christ. The like even in the Seahawks Broncos Super Bowl, the only one that's really even meaningfully like a decent comparison in this like period, in this last like decade plus of Super Bowls, they really didn't even put like the backups in there. They were still like running up the score in the fourth quarter.
yeah,
Like Tavares Jackson got in for one play and threw a single pass. Man, that's a blast from the past. But like, yeah, I mean, it really is like the beginning and end of the story of this game really could just be like it was so over that by the fourth quarter, like literally mid fourth quarter, they had Kenny Pickett in.
yeah. They had Pickett in like I think around the 3 minute mark, give 3 4 minute mark. They already dumped what's it called, the Gatorade on Sirianni
Right.
because it was just that dominant. Like they were the Chiefs scored twice in the last 3 minutes, like a minute apart from each other, give or take.
Right.
But that's because they were playing against the Eagles' backups, which have no depth.
Right. The Chiefs scored literally two touchdowns after the Gatorade was poured.
Yeah,
After we pivot the camera away from the action for so long because it's like, well, this is more interesting than anything else. And as Devontae and AJ run like a stealth operation to try and surprise him with this Gatorade.
they caught that and filmed that perfect. I mean, that is one of those like
Yes.
cameraman was on his A game filming those two with the Gatorade bucket.
Right. There really are a couple times in every football game where the cameramans lock in and make it look like a movie. That looked like a movie.
That was well done.
And it was more and you only get that because it's like, well, what else is this Cameron going to do right now? Like the game's over. We don't need to focus on that. Let's lock in for this. Like it really was interesting seeing the back half of the game, especially because and I know we were doing the whole discourse going into the third quarter of like, well, don't, again, the Patriots came back from 28-0 or 28-3. Don't count them out. Like, if Patrick Mahomes really is the GOAT, this is what's going to happen. And then the first two drives for the Chiefs were a 5-play punt and a 5-play turnover on downs. Not a particularly good effort, turnover on downs. And then the immediate next drive, the Eagles just go, all right, the game's over, and throw a 46-yard bomb to Devontae Smith. And then it's like, okay, this game is like over.
Yeah. No, I think that's the play they're calling that Devontae Smith touchdown. They're calling it the dagger because that's pretty much like was the final like stab in the back, and then the Chiefs were able to rebuttal for their first score of the game. And if the Eagles
I
really
can't.
wanted to at that point, like
34-0.
yes,
34-0 before that touchdown.
yes, in the third quarter too. Um, they could, and it was also one of those games where it's like no one was being left out. Everybody was on their fucking A game, for at least from the Eagles. And
Mhm.
yeah, no, they got just. It was just insane. It was 34-0. They when the Chiefs finally scored, and that was actually a very gorgeous pass caught by Xavier Worthy. I won't deny
Oh,
that.
yeah.
That was
Like, people
actually
are downplaying Xavier Worthy's performance because a lot of it came in garbage time, but it does give you a sense of, like,
he's
if
still
the Chiefs just fix 2 or 3 things, this could actually
yeah
work.
he's still very young.
Yes.
But yeah, no, the Eagles' offense was insane, and on top of things, the defense though was terrifying.
Yes. Well, here's my question for you. When did you accept that the game was over? Because, again, there was a
Honestly,
lot of, like, no jinxing in the chat. No jinxing.
the Devontae Smith touchdown. That was
Nice.
like I was very comfortable going to the half, obviously,
Mm.
and but I'm always nervous about the start of the second half. Like in my perfect world, whichever team I want to win will start with the ball in the second half. I I think that's more important than starting with the ball. Because
Oh, yeah.
you're about to set a new tone.
Right.
So I was nervous about that because it was like this could go off, and then my heart rate relaxed a little bit when it was like a 3-and-out or something like that, or they just crossed midfield for the first time and didn't get much out of it because it took
That was the most shocking stat, that it took them that long to get over
yeah,
halfway
they did
across the
not get
field.
past the 50 in the entire first half, which is insane for a Super Bowl
Right.
caliber team.
Because this is very much a game that if you just look at the box score, you kind of get how bad it was. But even when you look at the film and you look at the analytics, you're like, oh my god, this is just not allowed to happen to teams that have this much pedigree. This isn't allowed to happen to teams in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, and it really is kind of crazy that we kept giving them, and I want to focus more on the Eagles and the highlights than the Chiefs, but it is crazy. I guess it is a testament to the Chiefs that they kept getting the benefit of the doubt until the second half. Because, again, there is a scenario where they shake off the interception return for a touchdown. They scored to end the half, they get the ball back, and it's a tight game. Sphincters get a little squeezed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone gets a little antsy. Like, Sirianni yips at Hurts on the sideline.
Yeah.
But, like, no, the Eagles just came out, and, again, it's what we talked about last week. Just the most, like beer dad, football dad, like, you gotta win in the trenches, you gotta be able to make plays on defense, and you gotta not turn the ball over.
And the defense was mean. There's no other way to
Yes.
say it. The Eagles' defense were insanely mean too.
Yes. For me, the game was over, and, like, I know it was over before this, but it was that sack fumble. Again, Tom is just trying to, and my god, for all the heat Tom Brady got, he was a fucking trooper for, like, gutting it out. One, because half the Super Bowl was them taking jabs at him for losing to the Eagles.
Yes.
And the other half was like, there's no
Super Bowls.
Right, as if he wasn't 7 for 3, like a 70% win percentage. Like, LeBron James arguably is the GOAT in basketball, and he's lost more than he's won championship wise.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, it was him just trying to hype up the crowd and be like, we'll have to see. It's going to be a gut check time here. See what they can do. It's going into the fourth quarter. Do they have a shot? And Patrick Mahomes is sacked almost identical to how it went down to end the game against the Patriots. And I'm just sitting there, my George Lucas ass, being like, it's like poetry. It rhymes. It repeats.
Dude, the tweet of the year is Nick Foles going, I'm so glad Tom Brady was able to attend both Eagles Super Bowls.
What a world. It really is funny. The Eagles are, in terms of people who have beaten Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, it's And they're the only team to beat Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, and they're one of only like what 2 guys who have beaten Patrick Mahomes once he gets this far.
Yeah.
And it is funny. Like, I don't know. It is so funny. Like, just how dominant the Eagles felt. Like, almost from the jump. Like, it's back-to-back punts. And then it's just like, you just watch the Chiefs and you're almost immediately like, oh, the Eagles, like, they have them in, like, a bread box here.
It was, like, the first drive from the Chiefs, it was, like, it was a little nervous at first because it's like, Saquon wasn't really able to get things started. He's the only offensive player, and he didn't have it, like, he didn't have an amazing game compared to the rest of his season.
Oh, yeah.
But he still went for 57 yards, but he averaged 2.3. He was the only thing that they were prepared for.
Right. It is funny. It really is, like, the only thing that kept this from being an absolutely perfect game for the Eagles is, like, we didn't have the one Barkley just breaks through, gets a 50-yard touchdown run.
Yeah.
And there was only, like, 1 or 2 times where you get up in your seat because you're like, oh, it's about to happen, and they just make a heroic stop to keep him from doing it.
No, that was, like, he was their biggest focus, and it was kind of clear. But it was very nervous at first because, like, Jalen Hurts threw a very early interception. But that set them back to not that far, like, deep in their own territory. And, like, the Chiefs' first drive, it's like, all right, Eagles got lucky. We kind of escaped with this one. And then the question is, can we do it again? And then they do it again and again. And it was just like, oh, we're not being nice right now. What is it? The Eagles got a total of 6 sacks, which is, I think, the most in Super Bowl history.
I really do think it's one of the other Tom Super Bowls that would have had more because... Hold on, I'm going to look it up.
It is either the most in Super Bowl history or, like, it was the most that Patrick Mahomes has been sacked all season. It's one of those 2 records and the Eagles didn't do anything crazy with their defense. They played a normal 4-man up front.
Yes.
And I think the biggest case was, or like I've been saying this since the playoffs because I think Green Bay said it, or where it was just like, because it was a very funny scene where it was just like, the coach said, you can't let these guys start angering you because that's how you make mistakes. And then it cut to Jalen Carter and CJ Gardner-Johnson very quickly after that. They were the next 2 shots.
Right.
Even the people in the booth were like, it's gonna be those 2. And while they weren't, I wouldn't declare them like they were the biggest stars of the game from the defense, but they had great moments each. Almost everybody on the defense got to do something cool. Got to do something with the tackle. Even Kenneth Gainwell, RB2, got a tackle. Kickoff. Like, it was like, just like, it felt weird. But like, a lot of action was done. And then I think the Chiefs got very frustrated very early as there was a very clear clip of CJ Gardner-Johnson shit-talking Travis. And Travis...
Oh, yes.
Getting up in his face. And in the most un-CJ fashion. It's like in the most him fashion, but also not like him. He just put his arms behind his back and just stood there with his head held high, like, talking shit still, obviously. But, like, he was not doing anything physical, and it's just like, this is his level of scumbagness, which is part of the reason why I think it's, like, the Eagles are the villains of this.
Right.
And then...
Right. It was a chain-snatching performance, frankly.
Yeah. And then you see, I sent this clip to my mom. I'll send it to you too. But you see Travis getting frustrated, and he tries to move, like he tries to push Jordan Davis and like give him a shove on his shoulder. Jordan Davis does nothing. He literally brushes Travis Kelce, who is not a small dude, off with one arm.
Right. It's funny because if you watch these two teams with only minor context, like hazy context of what happened last season and the last time they played each other in the Super Bowl, like if you had like a vague sense of the last 3 years, you would have thought the Chiefs were the emotionally volatile team who crashed and burned last year
Yeah.
with like the hot head coach. Whereas like the Eagles seemed, other than like one little bit between AJ Brown and Nick Sirianni, just seemed very calm. I think they really did internalize like we are the better team. The only way we lose this is if, like the Bills, like all these teams who go against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, just kind of get in our head and make dumb mistakes. Yeah. I really do think, talking about how like amazing the defense was, despite really not doing anything cunning or strategic, like they were the Chiefs were throwing out all the stops to try it.
By the way,
oh yes, I'm watching it now. Yeah, like the Chiefs pulled out all the stops trying to stop Saquon. Like they were trying different fronts, they were trying different stunts, they were trying like different guys coming off the edges. Like they were trying stuff, but like the Eagles really did just stay for rushing. Everyone just make your tackles. They never get more than 5 yards of play.
Yeah.
And I really do think, in terms of like who the biggest winners of this Super Bowl are, you know, it's easy to say Jalen, obviously. It's easy to say Howie, but he's won a Super Bowl before. I really do think it's Vic Fangio, because as people have talked about, like, Vic Fangio is quietly one of the most important people in modern NFL history in terms of, like, pioneering the last, like, the quote-unquote, like, Chiefs-proof defense, in terms of, like, he's the guy who brought in too high. He's the guy who popularized, like, no big plays, you gotta dink and dunk, they'll make mistakes. And yet he never really had team success. It was everyone else profiting off of his ideas. So for him to basically get the perfect defense for him and, like, actually come through.
Yeah, all tough dudes that, like, want to put... Because I think I saw something where he was asked to leave, like, Miami because he was too hard on the defense.
Right. Which is the same thing they said to Brian Flores, and I'm like, what did I got in the water there that makes everyone such a little wiener?
Yeah, but it's like, you throw him in Philly, and it's just like, all right, here's some, like Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, and Jalen Carter, where if you do not put two men on them, they're getting through. So you have to decide which one or two you're putting multiple people on and hoping for the best.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, unsung hero Oren Burks and Zach Bond's getting his praises because he made an insane interception.
Oh yeah. And again, it led to the most dominant performance, like, in modern Super Bowl history. I'd argue it's even more dominant than the Seahawks against the Broncos, because at least then you can be like, well, unfortunately, Peyton Manning has had a couple of these in the playoffs before. Yeah. Like, he's had a couple, like, whoopsie-doodle, this got out of hand fast. Whereas, like, Patrick Mahomes has never had a game like this. He's not allowed to have a game like this.
Yeah, no, I think it's... Yeah, he doesn't get bullied like that. He's right. Patrick Mahomes, but no one.
But we will talk about him in a bit. Yeah. But for now, let's talk about Jalen.
Yeah.
Jalen finished his story.
Ah, man.
I did not realize how much losing that first Super Bowl emotionally destroyed that man.
From the world of professional wrestling, I loved this entire storyline. Do I think the Eagles should have won the last Super Bowl? Yes. Just like how I thought Cody Rhodes should have won at WrestleMania 39. Did I like how this product turned out better? Absolutely. Like, the long game behind it all seemed awesome. Like, they go from just playing against the Chiefs and them losing, and then it's the infamous photo that everybody's been asking him since the Super Bowl. I know because I watched a lot of interviews. Jalen Hurts very clearly made it his phone background right after that Super Bowl loss of him walking out surrounded by Chiefs confetti. And then they have a very great start to the following season, and the defense falls apart more than the offense did. And then this season, they acquire Saquon Barkley, which I'm loving all the receipt videos from that.
Honestly, the Giants owner might be Mara might be the first owner who, like, actually has a positive approval rating now because he called it from 1,000 miles away.
Oh, absolutely.
It was so obvious this is what was going to happen, and they let it happen anyway.
Yeah, no, but I love all the talking crap of like everybody right after that. When like the deal was inked, where it's just like Saquon's overrated. Like I still remember talking about it with my coworker, where she's just like, I don't know, Saquon's pretty old, and I'm like, Saquon hasn't been behind.
It's not even 30 yet.
Yeah, there's that, but he hasn't been behind an offensive line like those ones Jeff Stoutland builds. Not even like a specific Eagles offensive line, literally just the ones that Jeff Stoutland builds. And it's just like,
right.
And I told her, I'm like, watch and wait and see.
Right. I genuinely was like, I refuse to be gaslit into thinking this isn't going to work. And again, people are low on it. It was the same thing with Derrick Henry, where I'm like, I refuse to be gaslit into thinking this isn't going to work. Again, we all saw Saquon in his rookie year. We all saw him in college. All of the teams he's been on were absolute diarrhea. Put him on a good team, and he'll be what we thought he was, which is one of the most incredible running backs to ever play the sport.
Easily
and he proved it.
That could have been the record, but selectively chose not to himself.
And he still broke a record. He has more yards than anyone when you combine playoffs and regular.
Yes. And once again, in my opinion, the records mean more based off of attempts as opposed to games.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. But yeah, so it's like you have him joining the team, and then you have like a completely reworked defense. I think there's like 3 people from the original starting defense from the last time they played the Chiefs, and you let Howie choose the top 2 cornerbacks, both Rookie of the Year nominees for the draft, because he's Howie Roseman, and him in the draft is probably the scariest thing on the planet. Zach Bond, who is like was lost on special teams and was just like, yeah, I'll put him an inside linebacker. This is gonna work, and then it worked almost flawlessly.
Yes.
Like you start off with that, but the Eagles had 2-2, and everyone's like, oh, this is gonna hit the fan. And then Nick Sirianni shaved his head during the Week 5 bye week, which was hilarious. And then it's just like, all right, let's show them what they got. And then the entire rest of the season, they just won out, with the exception of the one Commanders game where Jalen Hurts gets hurt very early and Kenny Pickett was in before Tanner McKee, which I still think is a wrong choice. I think Tanner McKee
I'm
was
like,
the right choice.
Damn it, we couldn't have given Tanner like 3 snaps in the Super Bowl. He earned them.
I was hoping for that. But like, you watch all those post-Week 5 games, like their bye week games, and it's just like very few of them were as close as they seemed, because the Eagles clearly just let them score in garbage time, where they all lightened up very quickly after. Like, it happened in the first Rams game. It happened where it's just like, yeah, it happened in the Ravens game, where it's just all that stuff. And then they get to the playoffs, and people were like, Jalen Hurts doesn't got it. The Eagles don't got it.
Right.
Like,
again, I felt like I was being gaslit half this season, because other than the Panthers game, I'm like, they're kind of just crushing teams. It's not really close.
Panthers was oddly scary. Jaguars was oddly scary, but it's like, the first time they met the Giants, they held the Giants to 3. They held the Cowboys, who they played twice, to a total of 13 points. 13.
Right. But it really is, like, it is fascinating that it is, like, this was, like, we knew Hurts and Sirianni were capable of this because we saw them almost win a Super Bowl last time. But we also appreciated from last season, they're kind of a weird, volatile pair because Hurts has his own way of, like, I don't even know how to describe it. I don't think I really appreciate this year, but he does have a really odd vibe that it feels like a lot of the team doesn't hit, like, the same wavelength as. Like, even they're trying to, like, hype him up on the sidelines, and he's just very quiet. He's just like, it's not over yet.
Yeah, no. It's...
Whereas Sirianni bleeds that Mediterranean blood.
It seems weird because they all have the same, very much the same core of they treat every single game like it's in every single quarter like it's 0-0. There's no there's no lightening up. You gotta go. And then I think a great picture is of the day or like right before the game. The analysts are talking, and you see Jalen Hurts seeing the screen. Despite having dominant performances in the entire playoffs so far, you see Jalen looking at the screen, and every single analyst is picking the Chiefs to win. And he's kind of just gives like a face of like, all right, I acknowledge this. And then it's like you watch him ball out the entire first quarter like it's nothing. And then you get the mic'd up of the backup tight end, Grant Calcaterra, walking over to him and be like, hey, man, it's 40-6. You can crack a smile. And Jalen Hurts just look at him and just goes, no, not till it's zeros, till it's all zeros. That last game really messed with me. So
Oh yeah.
it's not over until the fat lady sings.
Yeah. And it, again, all of this underlines for me like, why Saquon was so important to his team, because he's like the middleman between these two very different ends of the emotional spectrum. Again, his approval rating is his approval rating, like I said, is probably the highest in the NFL right now, and he did sort of become a team whisperer for Hurts and vice versa. But like, yeah, again, some people prickled at Hurts winning MVP over someone on the defense. But at the end of the day, this game came down to, like, and again, it was still pretty close going into the half, but it came down to the Chiefs did everything in their power to stop Saquon Barkley with the hopes that, like, their gambit was like, oh, the Eagles are doing this because they don't trust Hurts. And Hurts had basically the perfect game by the standard, like, that you need a Jalen Hurts to play.
Yeah.
Again, he hit the deep shots. He kept it consistent. He didn't put the ball in danger. Even his one interception was more of like a rush pass because of the pass rush.
Yeah.
Like, he had the most timely scrambles that absolutely broke the spirit of the Chiefs. This is the fastest I've seen him run in like 2 years.
Oh, yeah,
like, it's the healthiest he's looked. It felt like he was 10% faster than he usually is.
No, it was literally like, I think that's what was good about this season for having Saquon too, of he like, I'm not saying he couldn't rely on like Miles Sanders or Kenneth Gainwell and stuff, but he had a running back that was so dominant that he wasn't running all season long, and like he didn't, because he didn't need to. Half the games he would just hand it off, and Saquon's gone 20 to 50 yards down, like almost every single time. But no, he had, with Saquon still able to get some yards, but wasn't looking amazing because the defense focused him. He's making those throws, and then if he saw an opening, he's going to take the opening like a complete psychopath and just break out into like a full sprint, and you're like, it's nothing.
Right. You want to hear my weirdest take from this game?
Hit me.
At the bare minimum, Jalen Hurts' legacy now is that of Eli Manning. In terms of, like, I feel like we are going to have the conversation once every 2 to 3 years where he's, like, got okay stats, but not the best stats in the regular season. Like, he has 1 or 2 weird games, like, the vibes are weird, and there's going to be a whole discourse in Philadelphia of, like, oh, is it time to move on from Hurts? Is, like, he overrated? Is this and that? Is he ever a top 10 quarterback? And then he'll just show up in the playoffs every year and put on the best show in town. And like, at the end of the day, that is the more valuable thing to me, of, like, this is a guy who goes from an 8 to a 10 in the playoffs every chance he gets. And yeah, it led us to our second Super Bowl in team history.
Yeah, no, and it was insane plays.
Also, shall we go to... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, also, would be remiss if we didn't mention the fucking Cooper DeJean pick 6 on his birthday.
God, what a joyous moment.
Kid turns 22 and picks off the most popular quarterback in the NFL. That's the most turn I got during the game, where, like, I actually reflexively shot my hands up in celebration. Yeah. I'm just screaming on his fucking birthday. All right.
Shall we just talk about the Chiefs? Our two lowlights were the Chiefs stopped Saquon, and that's about it. Again,
We've
like,
been into that.
yeah, they really did just gamble on, like, oh, they're not letting Hurts pass it because they don't trust him anymore. It's like, no, that wasn't it.
Yeah.
They just didn't want to look a gift horse in the mouth.
And the second they lightened up on Saquon is the second he scores 50 yards out.
Exactly. It was literally like the Ashton Genty stuff against Penn State in the play. Like the one time they like space it out, he gets like a 34-yard run on like 3rd and 20. But yeah, for me, I just put the note of like the tightrope walk ends, and so does the mystique. In terms of like, I feel like we can talk about the Chiefs normally now. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like so much of our discourse for the last like 2-ish years of NFL discourse has been like, yeah, but you can't count out Patrick Mahomes. You can't, they just got the Chiefs. They just got something about them when the playoffs start. That's over.
Yeah,
we can treat them like a regular football team with strengths and weaknesses.
I think this season kind of was this season as a whole was putting down the Chiefs from being this like just scary elite team to this team that just they win, things go in their favor, field goals get blocked or doinked, things like that, and then this was like the final nail in the coffin of just like, oh, this is not a juggernaut. This is
right.
This is just a football team.
Right. We definitely got dissuaded from that as the season rolled on, where it's like it was clear they had much less margin for error than they used to. But at the same time, if the game was close, they would always like pull it out. They would always get in the other team's head. Mm-hmm. But like, yeah, now the idea that Patrick Mahomes is invincible, I'd argue like even talking about the tier list, it's like, okay, is Patrick Mahomes still probably number one? Yes, but it's not as far away from the other big three as possible. And it really was a game that just kind of underlined like a lot of weaknesses. Because again, the point is, this was a good old American beatdown. Like people talk about like, and just talking about Mahomes for a minute. Like again, that Bucs game they got whipped pretty bad, but there were clear and precise explanations of like, well, our 2 tackles got injured. This taught us an important lesson. We got to reinvest in the line. Other than that, we should be good to go next year. And even then, Patrick Mahomes was almost making incredible plays. He almost made that play where he's falling sideways. Like, there were 1 or 2, like, bounce plays that could have made that game much closer.
Yeah.
It's hard to see any scenario where this game was close. And, like, I think objectively it is Patrick Mahomes' worst game. And it's like I said, like, guys who are considered the GOAT aren't allowed to have games this bad.
No.
Like, I can't think of a...
It's a regular season game, and it's like your first game back from an injury. That's...
Right. Or, yeah. Or it's, like, in the middle of the playoffs and just something has gone horribly wrong. Like... Tommy Boy had some stinkers, but it was never on the biggest stage.
No.
Like, even like LeBron, who again has lost more finals than he won, it's like, it never felt, other than maybe the Mavericks one, which was like a weird confluence of them getting outcoached and having the wrong personnel for the job. Like, he got his 30, he got his triple doubles. Like, he at least alone looked like he was trying really hard. Where, like, they were, like, after the first quarter, people were coming to Pat on the sidelines and being like, you good, dude? You good? Like, that pick to Cooper DeJean, he looked tilted. He looked like he was just pissed off that he was running for his life and just tried to force it.
Yeah, he looked so upset, and because he was running from like a pack of wolves basically, because they were more like a pack of bulldogs if I'm being honest, because it was all just quality Georgia players, a majority was quality Georgia players, and it was just like chasing them down, like
right.
None of them gave him a chance to like lighten up, and then he had to panic and throw it to this 22-year-old kid who's only been able to legally drink alcohol for a year.
Right. But yeah, it's like I said, it really revealed, like, again, I still argue that the Chiefs still have a lot of top end talent, but like the bottom, like the non-top end talent is very weak, and it just revealed a lot of weaknesses that they were able to mask by really good defensive strategy, and just, again, the mystique of like, oh, we have to play a perfect game against these guys. Like, again, you just appreciate how like tight the Bills were playing them, and just the little mental errors that come with that. And like, it's like, no, take a breath and think about this. They had to move, like, they drafted a first-round pick to be their left tackle, and he was so bad at it, they had to move their all-pro guard to tackle, ruining their good interior offensive line. Travis Kelce isn't turning it on in the playoffs. He still looks kind of mediocre. You're dependent on a lot of...
He was very much schlepping through. I saw multiple times of him just kind of standing there. I think it was on the pick to Cooper DeJean, where you see just while Mahomes is scrambling, Travis is just standing there.
Mm.
He's not helping. He held his hands up for a bit. It was like, I'm open. Throw it to me. And then he kind of just shrugged and was like, all right, I guess it's not me.
Right. And, like, yeah, the wide receiving core is better than it's been, but it's not a very diverse receiver room, and, like, it's too dependent on short gains, and you don't really have explosives. You had no running game this year. The minute Isaiah Pacheco broke his leg, and that you had to bring Kareem Hunt back, which is a particular indignity considering you were, like, you did the moral thing and cut him when the domestic abuse accusations came out. Like, you just and then on the other end, defense, it's like, yes, Trent McDuffie's a great quarterback, but you're forcing him to play out of position, and, like, he's not the tallest guy. He's not built to go against A.J. Brown. Yes, Chris Jones is amazing, but he hurts his neck early in the game, and you're like, oh, we have no one else who can get a consistent pass rush.
He was looking a little rough.
Our special teams kind of just stinks.
Yeah. And
it really just revealed, like, yeah, but all of these little problems don't feel like you can ignore them as long as you have that, like, psych out mystique element. And now that's just gone. And it kind of does mean you gotta... And, like, they'll be fine. They'll probably win the division next year. They'll still be competing for Super Bowl as long as they have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and a good enough offensive line and Steichen. But, like... Or Spagnola, not Steichen. Sorry, wrong guy. I get the S's mixed up.
Yeah.
But, like... Now they don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore.
The Colts.
Yeah, he's probably getting fired, honestly. If you told me he's fired mid-season, I'd believe that. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, shall we move on to our notable notes?
All right, I feel like this is kind of fun one. I made this actually before the game because I realized it beforehand, and now it's even more true. The NFC East is the only division to have every team win. Not only that, they've had every team win multiple times in the Super Bowl era.
God damn, really? Hold on. I'm looking at this, because that just... Okay,
wrong.
Buffalo didn't win one. Browns have never won one.
Neither Ohio team has won. Jaguars haven't won one from the South.
Goddamn, Chargers.
Yeah.
Lions. Panthers. Okay, who do we... The closest are the West and the South. Oh, no, the Falcons haven't. So we need the Lions next year or the Cardinals to win. And I'm not holding my breath for the Cardinals. Oh, shit. I didn't think about the Vikings.
Yeah. No,
you're damn.
Yeah, it's a crazy... That's like a very crazy note.
Well, and that's how you explain why so many NFC East games get primetime slots, even though objectively, for a lot of years this decade, 3 out of the 4 teams have been poopy diarrhea.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's like, they got mystique. Again, they got street cred. They have success. They're in big markets.
And like every other one of those is the Eagles.
Again, the Cowboys are a billion-dollar institution despite being ass for a decade. Despite, like... Genuinely, I think their last Super Bowl was pre-Clinton administration, for God's sakes.
Yeah, let me see. Hold on one second. I'll look something up.
Well, I will say, while we're at a pause here...
Wait. 1 second. I'm just looking at...
Right. Well, while you're looking at that, I'll just say... And it's interesting talking about the Super Bowl because it's like, after every Super Bowl, they're like, what lessons can we learn from the championship team? And I'm like, I don't know, draft Devontae Smith, sign him before he gets too expensive, identify A.J. Brown, sign Saquon Barkley at market value, hit on a second-round quarterback. Like, so many little things. And, like, obviously the big thing is, like, you got to rush with 4. And it's like, well, we already knew that. We knew that from the 2 Super Bowl losses Tom Brady had. And the other time the Eagles won the Super Bowl. But I do think, in terms of, like, a paradigm shift, I'd argue that the Eagles showed 2 really big paradigm shifts. One, it might be more important to get pressure from the interior defensive line than the exterior. Because, like, Sweat is good, but he was eating on the fact that, like, Jalen Carter was basically playing all-shield Reinhardt. Like, you'll be like, man, he didn't get any eliminations. But then you see his, like, block damage, and it's 20,000?
Yeah, Jalen Carter didn't really get any stats, but if you watch the game, it wasn't a matter of him not getting, like, not trying. Literally, like I said, it was, you put him, Williams, and Davis up front, you need two or three people to block each one of them.
Right. And on offense, I'd argue, like, it's funny because we're talking about Vic Fangio and the age of the dink and dunk. I think the Eagles kind of proved to a certain extent that's over. Like, if you want to be successful on offense now, you really do. You have to have more versatility than in the past, obviously, but you need explosives.
Yes.
Like, you can't have a situation like the Bills or the Chiefs where it's like, your best receivers are like yak guys, short rep guys, like. And then the wild card is you really, really need explosives on the ground, which is why I do feel like the Bills and the Ravens probably would have done. They wouldn't have won. Like, the Eagles just feel like a team of destiny at this point, and it's easy to say that when they win.
Yeah,
but they at least would have made it a fight.
Performance, they would have still been dominant, but I don't think against the Bills or the Ravens, the Eagles would have been playing backups.
Right. Because at the end of the day, both the Bills and the Ravens are capable of getting explosives on the ground. And I do think that's the Saquon factor. That's like the real wild card of like how you take an offense from 0 to 100. You need to be able to, whether it's by really good design or by sheer physical talent, be able to get those like 60-yard chunk plays every quarter.
Yeah, if you have someone like James Cook or Derrick Henry against the Eagles defense, it's like if the defensive line is not able to get through, and you're able to hold them and stop them from getting to their running back, and that running back gets more than I would say 3 yards, odds are they're going to be gone. It's gonna It's gonna take a minute for like. It's been proven with the Ravens that Zach Bond and Cooper DeJean can be there to stop, but they're not the biggest dude. So if you get that momentum, you're going to have a fight.
Yeah. I will say, as a Bills fan, the two thoughts I had were, one, it really did feel like the car in front of you gets completely annihilated by someone running a red light, and you can't help but just go like, Jesus fucking Christ, that could have been us!
Yeah.
Like, there is the only upside to not making the Super Bowl is that didn't happen to you. But also, like, watching this Eagles team was the equivalent of, like, pre-Apollo mission, like the pre-Apollo mission United States watching Sputnik make it into orbit, where it's just like, we're decades away. We're not even close to that. It did make me weirdly more depressed as a Bills fan, where I'm like, I do not believe Brandon Beane has the cunning or skill of a Howie Roseman to, like, catch up. I'm like, God, where are we going to get a receiver who can do that? Where are we going to get the interior defensive line? Like, holy hell. Other notable notes. Go ahead.
I think that's the big thing is you have to have this weird analytic mind of Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie and Nick Sirianni, where no one takes credit for it being them. And it's just like, this was a team thing. But they all take blame. And that trickles down to the entire team. Of none of them push blame. It's like you don't see Sirianni after a loss going, it's Fangio's fault. It's Kellen Moore's fault. It's just like, yeah, that was on me. I chose some bogus plays. And then it's like, but then like draft season comes around and Howie Roseman's sitting behind like eight computer screens like he's a hacker in a 2002 movie. And he's just going, I'm in. And then every other GM is terrified of their phone ringing, and it's him. And I think he's messed with people before, too, and just be like, hey, how's it going? No, I'm just fucking with you. Bye. So it's like, yeah, imagine the Bills back office just getting that phone call from Howie Roseman. It's just like, and it's just like, oh, God, what is he going to do? Because he's done things. Like, he's gotten Devontae Smith. He's moved up to get Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell. Oh, no, he didn't move for Quinyon Mitchell, but he moved for Cooper DeJean. He got A.J. Brown. Like, the man's a lunatic.
Right. Do you have any strong thoughts on the Super Bowl or the various ads? I really did. That's the only thing I didn't pay attention to, the ads.
I didn't care for the ads that much this year. Like, there was a couple that were good. I liked the one Doritos Alien Abduction one. That was kind of fun. I liked the Lilo and Stitch live action teaser.
Right.
I thought that one was funny.
It
because
is very striking that all they've shown of that movie is Stitch doing antics.
I love that because that's his whole like that was the whole marketing when it first came out too. So I respect like I thought that was fun.
Right. Right. It is a little. It's simultaneously weird because I'm like, you made the rest of the movie, right? But on the other hand, I'm like, I kind of respect it as like an ad campaign.
Like the Stitch taking over Disney World bit that happened, awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. I will say the one only ad that stuck out to me was the Thunderbolts with an apostrophe ad. Only because that feels like the wild card of the MCU, where I feel like that could like catch people off guard in terms of like a movie that makes a lot of money.
I wouldn't be surprised. I've heard rumors or seen rumors that there might be cameos from like Deadpool and stuff, and that's just gonna track
Well,
tickets. The
yeah.
second if it's confirmed, it's gonna track tickets.
Yeah. I'm just excited because I don't want to spoil that much, but one of the main characters who's kind of like the central point of the plot is a character called Sentry. And he's cool just on his own merits of like the powers and stuff he has. But like in terms of Marvel Comics history, they kind of came up with an absolutely butt-fuck nuts twist with him in terms of like explaining his place in the Marvel universe.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't know if they're going to commit to because it's a really big thing to commit to in live action. But if they do it, people are going to lose their minds.
Yeah, that's.
I will just describe it as they might as well call him Captain Retcon, and I'll leave it at that. If you guys, I won't spoil it in case they actually do the thing, but like he's really cool, and I really like the halftime show. I very much like the halftime shows. Like, look, I was a classic rock teen because of my dad. I really liked the halftime shows that were just like concerts. Like, I like the Bruce one. I like the Paul McCartney one. But I do like when we get performers who do like performance art with it.
Yeah.
Like, as fun as like just getting all of the California rappers on the stage was cool. I think it's more fun when they do like a really choreographed show.
I thought that was good. It's one of those things where it was just like it's not the music I listen to. It wasn't professional wrestling entrance themes or bagpipes or Chapel Roan, so it's not what I typically hear.
One of these things is not like the other.
Yeah, no, it makes
one of these things tells on him a bit.
No sense, but it was like I thought it was enjoyable. I thought it was extra funny that Samuel Jackson was Uncle Sam.
Yes. Which Sammy explained that like Uncle Sam as like a character is like very prominent in K-Dot's music. I'm starting to go through his discography and get more sense of like, all right, what is actually this? I know he won a Pulitzer Prize, and I have a pretty broad sense of why he doesn't like Drake, and that's about it. So I'm kind of picking up. I know he folks were liking it a lot, and I know he was in Pharrell Williams' Lego biopic. Do you remember that? That came out last year. Yes. You want to know why that came out? And I think I've explained this on the Disney. So, Warner Brothers decided they didn't want to do Lego. Like, the Lego movie second piece kind of underperformed relative to expectations, and they're like, we kind of killed the golden goose on this one. We don't need to do it. So there was a bidding war for the rights to do Lego movies. And Universal ends up outbidding everyone. And they're like, hell yeah, easiest layup. Like, it's been a decade since the Lego movies. People are going to be excited for another one. We're going to do Lego Movie Part 3. Let's go. And Warner Brothers goes, oh, no. You don't understand. You bought the rights to make a Lego movie. Yeah. The Lego movie, the ones we've made. All of those characters are our original intellectual property. So you don't get to use Emmett or Wild Style or generic 80s space Lego or like any of the ideas we came up with. You just get the broad idea of Lego, and if you want to use like Batman and stuff, you got to go through us. And Universal's like, shit, we cannot have spent this much money on Lego to not make a movie with Legos. And I guess they were working on a biopic with Pharrell already, and they throw the Hail Mary pass of like, you want it to be Lego? And it's like, well, it's a thing to do. But anyway, do you have any final thoughts on the Super Bowl before we go into our like little prep for the off season?
It was a fun game to watch because the Eagles won, and if it was the roles, roles reverse, I'd probably be thinking it was less fun, but it was yeah, no, it was a genuine team ass kicking.
It
Like
was nice to have a party with it, you know?
yeah, it was cuz I think that was like outside of throwing in the backups so they can say they actually played a couple drives in the Super Bowl and stuff. Um cuz that happened. But it was literally just like there wasn't like Josh Sweat did good, but he wasn't like so like far ahead of some other people, like other defense members of the defense and stuff that it was just like, oh, he
Mm.
like it was him versus like it was just him the entire time. It wasn't like it wasn't like that for anyone on the Eagles, so it was awesome. Yeah. Yeah, Milton Williams got 2 sacks. Josh Sweat technically got 2.5, and everyone's getting multiple tackles or assisting with them. And then the people that don't really have stats, like Avonte Maddox didn't record a tackle, but he had a killer block. Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith Jr. didn't get formal tackles, but you see them putting so much pressure on Mahomes and the linemen that it's just like, yeah, they didn't really need to.
Mhm. Honestly, it's such a basic take, but it really was a team effort. And it will be curious the decisions they based off that, what decisions they make going into the offseason. Because one of my bold predictions is I'm not sure Sweat comes back. You know, the Eagles have, shown no butts about like moving on from defensive ends.
Yeah, I think I think Sweat is going to depend on Brandon Graham.
Hmm.
Um, Nolan Smith Jr. the second half of the season made a huge case on why he should be a starting end, and it was clear. It's like, yeah, no, you kind of are looking like you deserve it. I think BG would take the best way I can describe it is a Legends deal, where it's just he's such a legend where if you underpay him a little bit or overpay him a little bit, he's not gonna he's still gonna come and play like it's nothing.
Hmm.
And I think Mekhi Becton, the guard from the Jets, has definitely earned himself another contract. Same with Zach Bond,
Hmm.
where I think those two are 1 and 2, and I think it's like Milton Williams at 3 for priority,
Hmm.
and then you kind of go to people like Sweat and Slay, where Slay's considering on one more season or retiring, so but I think he said that he's only considering the Lions or the Eagles. Like he's ending with a team he's already been on. He's not going to a new team.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he might take a cheap deal unless that the Lions really want him. And then there's the whole announcement of a huge salary cap increase.
Right.
And
Which, for all this sweating about the salary cap, it's like, guys, it's always going to go up. It's always going to go up, especially now that because they use the ratings to justify increasing the cap. And there was a very interesting thing I was listening to about how a part of the ratings going up is a byproduct of them doing a better job of evaluating bars and stuff. Because before they didn't really count people who were watching at a bar, but because we basically have spyware in our pockets now, they can effectively evaluate how many people are at a bar watching the game.
yeah, the TV in a bar just went from one counting as one viewer to counting as the entire bar's worth of viewers.
Exactly. Yeah, it does make this offseason much more excited. I'm trying to think of the things that the Bills could do to get me interested again. We already have some drama because the Bengals have indicated that they want T. Higgins on the on that second what's the word? Franchise tag. Yeah, remember the one Lamar got where it's if another team wants to match the offer, they have to give the Ravens 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, something.
And I am trying to figure out in my head which teams would talk themselves into that. If the Patriots think their offensive line is just okay enough to carry them through with a good wide receiver, they could probably talk themselves into it. But that's also the fourth pick.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy to let the Bengals have that.
I think that they would. I think the Patriots need to be like the first team to draft. Literally like a tackle or receiver. Give Drake Mason help.
Yeah.
Like teams that are like a little bit higher that can possibly do something like that. Like I wouldn't be. I think it would be silly for someone like the Broncos, but like the Broncos could get away with it, you know?
Yeah. The Broncos are my please get one cool skill between Ashton Genty, T. Higgins, like so many options. Please get one cool skill position player, because like then who knows what the possibilities are. Just one. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
Like, and vice versa. I'm like, Cowboys, please don't do anything like that. Don't be a bummer.
Yeah, maybe the Rams could get away with something like that, but I don't think like the Patriots should be.
Yes, but talking of the offseason, let me quickly, now we officially have the entire draft order locked in. Let me rattle it off for all of our friends. Picking number 1, Tennessee. Cleveland gets the second pick. Third pick goes to the New York Giants. Then it is New England, Jacksonville, Las Vegas, the New York Jets at 7, Carolina at 8, 9 and 10 are New Orleans and Chicago. Then it is San Francisco, Dallas, Miami, Indianapolis, Atlanta to round out 15. 16, 17, 18, 19 are Arizona, Cincinnati, Seattle, Tampa. Pick 20, the Denver Broncos. Now we're into the teams who lost in the wild card. We got Pittsburgh at 21, the LA Chargers at 22, Green Bay at 23, Minnesota at 24. The divisional round losers, 25, is the Houston Texans, the Rams at 26, Baltimore at 27, Detroit at 28. Our conference championship losers, Washington at 29, the Buffalo Bills at 30. And then our Super Bowl teams, pick 31 goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. And the final pick in the first round to our Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles. Now, do you want to get any crazy offseason predictions in? Maybe we'll do one before free agency to like really give our crazy takes. But like, do you have any like off the cuff predictions you want to make?
I think Myles Garrett leaves the Browns.
Okay. Do you have a prediction for what team he goes to?
I have like out of nowhere team would be someone like the Patriots, of just like, what the fuck happened that you went from the Browns to the Patriots kind of deal. Kind of a somewhat likely scenario would be Commanders and like Denver, where it's just like these are two young competitive teams. So you would definitely be like an older veteran, but like in a good dominant way, where you would definitely assist where they need help.
Right.
Yeah, that would be my like 3 picks. And then the somehow it happens scenario is Howie Roseman somehow gets them for like 2 third-round draft picks or some bullshit like that.
Right.
Like,
that would be the worst version of this story. That like the Cardinals or something force a trade and the Browns go, hey, they could be contenders, and just take the biggest jackpot.
I think it's literally like there's actual like could be contenders, and then there's the you can talk yourself into being contenders, and that's where I think he's gonna end up in an actual could be contender, because I'm not saying he's going to be toxic at all, but he seems
too chill for that.
He seems too chill for that, but him not wanting to be there is going to be just a morale killer.
Right. Things suck enough. Like, I don't, because it's like, what are you going to do to turn this around? Are you going to trade for Kirk Cousins? Are you going to trade for, like, are you really going to just dump more assets into, and I do think if they are going to trade him, they really need to do it before the draft, because there is a chance they can replace him with Abdul Carter, who obviously isn't a Myles Garrett, but he's very, very good.
Yeah.
And, like, you got to, because you basically have to decide, like, depending on how the draft goes, you either going defensive end or you going quarterback, and that is largely dictated, one, by what Tennessee decides to do, They've kind of indicated they're not 100% on this quarterback class, but also like that dictates what you do with Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
But mine is,
If Tennessee's
I
not
think,
down for the pack, or
mhm,
for not picking QB at 1, I say trade the pick back.
right.
Get some more.
Because the thing is, you could force a team in the top 5 to trade with you, and you'd still get someone really good. It really also just comes down to how highly you rate both Carter and Travis Hunter. Because if you really do think they're two generational talents that you can't miss on, then like you can probably talk yourself into keeping the pick.
Yeah,
but if you get a sense that the Browns are sweaty, or like the
Jets, I would say
the Jets, the Raiders,
you can go to like 7 or 8 and easily get a steal and still have something that you need if you're not like in like the specific class that much.
Mm.
But I don't think you should go further than that, because then you'll end up shooting yourself in the foot somehow.
Right. Mine is probably, I think there's more likely a chance right now Aaron Rodgers retiring than he plays. I think like he'll say that he's available and he'll hold out for like a team who has a quarterback injury and gets desperate mid-season. But I just think like, because people keep talking about like, oh, maybe he goes to the Rams, like maybe the Rams are ready to move off of Stafford. Like, oh, he could go to Pittsburgh, he could go here, he could go there. And it's just like,
move is for nobody to want him.
Exactly. And I just think like the teams that are desperate for quarterbacks, like there's not enough teams who are desperate for quarterbacks who are also good enough to justify the headache, who need to win now to save their job. Like, is he really going to go to the New York Giants? Like, is that Brian Daboll's last gambit to save his job? Like, I don't think he's going to want to, Daboll's going to want to go down like that. Yeah, also, like, there's a handful of teams like that who need to win right now, but most of the teams who need a quarterback are either just going to try and get one of the two in this draft, or they're just going to wait till next year and suck for the better draft.
Yeah, also, I feel like none of those teams like that are going to be in the need of a quarterback. Outside of the headache, they're going to be able to meet his demands.
Exactly. And like, people are like, oh, he'll be humbled. No, he won't. What has he shown for the last, like, 3 years, including the years he was on the Packers?
Yeah. He rearranged the entire Jets office.
Like, he spent the entire time when Matt LaFleur was in Green Bay bitching the whole time. And I'm like, you're telling me you want that in New Orleans?
Yeah.
You want that in San Francisco? No. Of course you don't. Yeah, I just really don't see a path for it. And it's going to... Because here's the thing, it happens to a lot of old greats. Like, Peyton Manning, quote-unquote, retired, but he tried to come back. He tried to find a team who would sign him for one more year, and everyone was like, no, dude, we saw you play last year. Your arm is done. Yeah. Like, the surgery you got has failed now, so
you won Super Bowl MVP at Super Bowl 50. Stay home.
Yeah. Like, yeah, your defense carried you through that. Oh, wait, I think Von Miller won the MVP that year.
No, I thought it was...
Yeah, because he... it was definitely... Here, I'll look it up. Yeah, he won it for his performance in Super Bowl 50, because he got, like, 2.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles.
Huh. Oops, my bad. I always thought he won. Oops.
Nah, Payne was really bad in that Super Bowl.
I know.
Like, again, he was done.
I know he wasn't good. I remember watching it in the college dining hall. But... I thought it was one of those things where it's just they're gonna just toss it to him and be like, "Here you go."
Yeah, they do that sometimes, but I think it was too untenable.
Yeah. Oh.
Like, I think it would have been a bad look. But that's like my main prediction. I don't really have too many other sexy ones. That's kind of my like high profile one.
I got a good one, hopefully. Next year's bottom graphic will be better.
Yeah, what the fuck was that?
That was something
they were hyping that up.
It looked like shit.
Right, it literally looked like you planned to do one, but then like something ran out, either time or budget or the will to live or the break room ran out of Doritos, and you just had to throw that on.
You can easily make that entire thing in Excel. I straight up said that, like, when I first saw it, I just went like, yuck. Like, immediate disgust. That was trash. And especially after watching the Royal Rumble the week before, where they had their new bottom graphic, which was great. It was telling you who was in it, what entry they were. It wasn't taking up too much screen space. It was incredibly well done. And then I was met with two squares and like scores, and then a square in the middle. It's just like, what the fuck is this shit?
The only way you could justify it in my head is that you're like, take up as little space as possible so we can see the action. I'm like, okay, how much action happens down there?
You can still make it very minimal, but you can make it look good. That's the difference. Because it was literally just their initials in blocks, and it was just one color each. You could have done the like dark green and silver for the Eagles, red and gold for the Chiefs, with the same number of steps, but you chose not to. And it would have looked like, even just putting a gradient on those boxes would have made it look better. That's it. And it wouldn't have to be a violent gradient either.
Right. It's also just very funny going from, I believe it was CBS last year, because CBS, they kind of carry over a lot of the Nickelodeon stuff into the playoffs in terms of maximalism. Like, because like every time someone scores a touchdown, it's like, fire! Name shaking! Graphic! And gotta say, prefer the maximal. Like, again, this is a fucking Super Bowl. Be big, be loud.
Yeah, I respect it, but it was just, like, for trying to keep it simple so you could see more action. I respect that. But like, yeah, look up like the bottom ticker for the Royal Rumble. It was literally like a slightly bigger than a news feed on the bottom of it this year, and it looked great.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that, and now I'm thinking it's bothering. But like, yeah, it's kind of a weird offseason because it's a lot of guys. Like, these sort of quote-unquote sexy... Like, we don't have a situation where the two best running backs in the league are out. Like, the quarterback pool is a little less, like... When Sam Darnold and Kirk Cousins are the two faces of, like, quarterbacks who can... You're a little like... I do think one of my offseason predictions, again, related to quarterback, is I think, like, one team will completely strike out in the draft and then desperate sign either Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins. Like, I do think, like, one of those veteran guys will get... Oh, see, that's clean. I like that.
So, like, that's what it was when somebody entered. This is what it was during the rest of the match, where it was just basic stats, a little, not too simple. Big, but it was simple.
Yeah, I like that. But yeah, I don't have... Again, I just think it'll be interesting, like... Again, it's a lot of, like, pieces. I'm curious to see, because I do think it's going to be an arms race between the Bills, Chiefs, and Ravens, because they all kind of need some similar positions. Yeah. I'll be curious to see who makes the moves necessary to sort of win the arms race. And, yeah, it's a very weird draft. It is a draft with a handful of very blue-chip talent, and then just, like, 20 to 60 are just, like, if they get to the right situation, they'll be great. I'm really curious to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I think it's a mix of, like, for like the quarterback picture especially, it's a mix of, do you want a rookie or do you want one of these pros?
Right. And would you rather have the mystery box of like, hey, this rookie could be good?
Yeah. I feel like that's one arms race, and then the other is Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, like you said, Lions, where it's just like, who's going to get the best enhancement talent for their team? Because let's like, you have like all those things, and then you, especially with like Cooper Kupp and Myles Garrett being thrown into the fray, and then you also have people. It's like, oh, I want Kirk. Oh, should we? Oh, I don't want. It's like, I'll take Wilson. I don't want Rodgers. And then also, I would say the biggest mystery is Sam Darnold. Where do you put him?
If I'm him, I honestly might talk myself. If, like, I know he wants more money than the Vikings are willing to give, but, like, why burn a good thing? Like, there's a chance McCarthy isn't ready for the start of the season. Just cruise for a couple weeks, and then McCarthy takes over, and you have like 1 year to like pitch yourself to other teams.
Yeah, you start off hot. McCarthy gets better. They put him in. You wave goodbye.
Right. Your vibes are good, and then you won't have to like risk the playoffs screwing you over again.
Yeah, you finish a couple games for him, maybe, and then it's just like, all right, Raiders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, the Raiders are the team I keep thinking of. Like, if they don't get Shador, what the hell are they going to do? And it could get crazy really fast.
Yeah, because I think they're keeping O'Connell, but I don't think they're keeping Minshew.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they'll get Jameis Winston.
It's got to go somewhere.
Can that be our pick for the offseason? Hopefully it takes all off.
Jameis watch.
Just Jameis watch. Jameis and Darnold.
What is it, like fucking Panda Watch from Anchorman?
Yeah.
Yeah, we give off that energy.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Alrighty, Carter. Would you care to end the season?
Oh, I'm kind of sad. It is funny coming to the end of this every year, and you're like, it is work, but it's fun work. I enjoy hanging out with my friend and just shooting the shit about football. I like being able to explain to people why, players they don't necessarily notice are important, or like why games they might not have gone to watch were really cool and interesting. Like, it's funny. I talked about the NBA in comparison to the NFL recently, and the thing I've appreciated about the NBA is, unfortunately, a lot of the commentators are angry grumps who always want to complain about the league. Or it's nice to have like a generally positive show where we try to see the best in everything. We try to talk about the guys you shouldn't sleep on. And yeah, it was a fun season because this is the first time a team we care about won the goddamn Super Bowl. And that will always make this year a special little time capsule as we go back and listen to these episodes and see the ebbs and flows as we appreciated what was coming and the little bit of celebration we gave ourselves when it happened. And I hope we can have that kind of energy going into next year because no matter what happens, I have fun doing this, and I hope you guys have fun too. So, until we turn on the engine for the off-season and start getting hyped all over again, I'm Carter.
I'm excited for WrestleMania, which is going to happen right before the draft.
Oh yeah, we'll have to do an update video about that. Yeah, we'll have to do a addendum to our WrestleMania stuff. But until then, thank y'all for watching, and I hope you had an awesome NFL season.
We'll see you in April.
Probably.